With all the allegations that are coming out with regards to Zak Bagans at the moment, it's not looking particularly great for the Ghost Adventures superstar. And one of the people that has kind of spearheaded this conversation, besides Holly Madison, is a YouTuber and TikToker by the name of Phantomette, as she was one of the women that Zak cheated on Holly with at the time when they were together. Now, Phantomette obviously has come out with a TikTok video expose, telling all about what has gone on. But I wanted to understand and delve a little bit deeper into this scenario to get my full picture of what happened, the timeline of events, and kind of what led to this all coming about, and some of the other things that Phantomette was willing to share. Now, I will, obviously state that there's going to be a trigger warning for this video for anyone who may have experienced things like this. It's, it's not exactly easy to listen to, and it wasn't easy to kind of sit in the interview and ask these questions because, it's an incredibly sensitive topic with regards to, essentially being used. So it is an incredible shame, but this is the interview. The links to Phantomette will be down in the description to her YouTube, to her TikTok, to her Instagram, as you can keep up to date with her stories. I believe she plans to continue telling her story in the coming months. It's just, these things take a bit of time. So there will be links down in the description below, but here's the interview. So, we'll go off of what you've said from your TikTok, right? Because, you were comfortable to say that within your TikTok, but you mentioned how you met Zak, obviously, in that video. You caught an EVP from his museum. He got in
Yeah,
touch.
yeah, I did the nighttime tour. So obviously there's a daytime tour at the museum. The nighttime tour, you can't take videos, but you can take an audio recorder in, which is pretty cool. So I did that and I captured two really good EVPs, and I had posted them a while ago, and I just did like a repost one day and he responded to it. And I always hear about these like fake Zach pages that go around. So I genuinely like just thought it was that. And then I realized I was like, wait, that looks like his real page. And then he started just continually messaging me. He was just asking me like personal questions, just like being super friendly. And I was just very shocked and still like, I don't know if it's him. And then he just sent a bunch of voice notes, and then I confirmed it is him. And then that's when he eventually invited me over to the museum. At first, he's like, you want to come to the museum one night? And of course, I was like, yes. And then when I was on my way, he told me to meet him at the Black House, which is the house that is next to the museum. That's kind of like a hangout spot slash like an extension of the museum. There's a lot of museum stuff in there, I guess you would say.
Right, okay, interesting. So, what was your like? Obviously, on TV, he seems like a really sweet guy. He seems, he has like a couple of moments with other co-stars where it's like maybe he's a bit of like, a bit hit or miss or whatever. But ultimately, what did you think of him when he first like reached out to you personally? Like, what was your impression of him?
He was super friendly at first, just very personable. Like I said, asked me like a lot of questions about myself, but like in a nice way. And I would say the first couple times we hung out, I was surprised. I was like, wow, this guy's actually really cool. Like, not the weird kind of personality you would see on TV, just like very normal, which from my experience was only like that in the beginning, which kind of aligns with other people's experience with him, that changes very quickly. It's like one of those like lure you in kind of things, and then it switches. So it didn't last very long for me, along with the red flags, with the other girls. But just he's a strange character.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I know that you're not the only person to have said that. I've heard from other places and sources and all the rest of it that,
Yeah.
it's quite an. But was there like a specific turning point where it went from like, him being quite personable, quite interested in your life to kind of like, was there a shift essentially?
There was. So the first couple times it was more laid back as far as like the time we would hang out, or just like, hey, come over. Like maybe it was a little earlier in the day. And then later on, I would say it's more of a time slot, which is kind
Right.
of what we're calling it here. So my time slot would be 10 p.m. Like I knew he would be busy until around 10 p.m. and that's exactly when I would get the text. But I didn't think it was weird because he's a busy guy, multiple businesses, filming stuff on TV. So for me, that wasn't a red flag at first. But in hindsight, now I'm realizing with lining up other people's schedule that it really seems to be like it was time slots for everyone and
Wow.
like back to back, like barely
Wow.
overlapping. Because as far as I'm aware, Holly mentioned that she would hang out with him until 10 p.m. and then he would be tired, is what he would say. So she would go home, and then that's when I would be arriving. So it appears that we would barely just miss each other, which explains a lot of weird things now looking back that kind of happened with that.
That's crazy. So, I mean, that's crazy. That is crazy. Like, if it were me, right, and living that kind of like double life, I would be concerned about the people bumping into each other. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I
you know
mean,
what? I'm kind of thinking that like maybe that's an adrenaline rush kind of thing,
oh,
like
okay,
a
okay,
an
yeah, yeah,
excitement. I really it must be something like that because that sounds terrifying to me.
yeah. I would be shitting bricks. Like, if
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, but so I'm going to assume, obviously, that like based off of the information that you've said, you weren't aware that him and Holly were together at the time, right?
No, 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 no. Yeah, a lot of people have come forward and questioned that part. I had no idea. So the only thing I saw is the recent TMZ post from when they did break up. And that was like a
Right.
public thing. TMZ reported about it. And then it appears that he strategically didn't post her at all after that, even when they did get back together. So I had no idea.
Oh wow.
Um, there was really no way for me to know that. And of course, I'm just going by what he's telling me. And then I started getting suspicious. The one thing that caught my eye is, girls kind of like creep around on the internet. And I don't know, I was just curious. And I went to her page and I saw like a photo dump video. And there was a ton of pictures, but one of the pictures had him and her, which I know they were together for a long time. So part of me was like, maybe it's just like a little throwback picture.
Right. Yeah.
But that's when I did ask him because I had enough reason to believe like this could be something weird, and that's when he got really mad. That's the first time I saw he was mad. I remember it was on the phone. I called him, and I was nervous to mention it,
Hmm.
and it just like it blew up out of proportion. He was
Wow.
not happy. I asked him about that at all. Told me to mind my business, and he was very adamant about saying like they were not together. Like
Wow.
they're not at
Okay.
all.
Wow. Okay. So he was okay. Interesting. So he obviously was with her, claiming he wasn't.
Oh yeah.
Was with you. We can only assume was with other people based off of timelines as well.
Yeah, I've lined up some timelines. There's one girl I've spoken to for the past week or so, and her timeline also appeared to overlap mine, but she said she was getting flown in to town. She was from out of town.
Wow.
So that adds a whole nother element. That's a lot going on at once
Yeah.
between, Holly leaving and then me showing up and then somehow this other girl being in that mix plus more, but that's just the ones I can confirm for a fact.
Wow. Okay. And that's an interesting like the way that you've obviously put that is a lot of people right now are like, stating this is all alleged, this is just based off of hearsay, but obviously you're saying you've like seen the evidence as fact.
Yeah.
And obviously
Mm.
if someone's getting flown in, there's going to be receipts of that. There's going to be
Mhm.
flight.
Pictures,
Yeah.
parking passes with dates, they're everything's solid. Obviously we can't post any of that
Yeah.
because it's very personal information, but
Yeah.
it just know it 100% exists.
Wow. And with regards to, so you mentioned there that you called him up, essentially questioned the photos with Holly, and was that like, at what point after that did like you kind of cut ties with Zach and like, or was there like a specific thing that happened that you like cut ties because of, or was it off the back of that, or what happened there?
After that, I can't remember what the exact thing was. It might have been more posts online or something like that. Because, like I said, I didn't have anything solid, but just intuitively I knew, and there was just little signs. I can't remember exactly, but I want to say it was some kind of like Instagram post, maybe on Holly's page, but it was just enough that I was like, look, it looks to be wrong, so I don't want to be involved. And a funny detail is the last time I went there, I wanted to almost like let Holly know, even though I wasn't sure yet. So I was like, what can I do? I was like, I got to plant something here. So I left a very specific looking hair tie that like couldn't be a mistake for someone else's. It had like pearls and everything on it. And I was like, I'm going to hide it in the couch. And like, hopefully she finds it. And she didn't find it. I did ask her. She didn't find it, but it was a good attempt. And from other stories, other girls did leave things around too, kind
Wow.
of the same way.
That's like some girl shit right there. That is some proper girl shit right there. Respect to that. Like, and it's a shame she didn't find it, because it'd be interesting to see how it would have panned out. But obviously, you know, with regards to all of it, like after looking back on in hindsight, like, do you how do you feel about the whole thing? Because obviously, you get hit up by Zak Bagans. That's quite a big deal. He's not exactly like an unknown person. He's probably the most well-known person, especially in your line of work and stuff, especially like interest in the paranormal and all the rest of it. So that must have been obviously exciting at the time. But looking back on it, is there anything where you were like, maybe the red flags were screaming at me, but you kind of overlooked it potentially because of those?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would say that definitely he really did cover it well. So either way, it would have been hard, but it really was just like my time period was way less than a lot of the other girls. So for me, it was like a very quick whirlwind of like, this is crazy. Like, how is this happening right now? And add in the element of like, I thought I was special. Like
yeah,
I really didn't think he was hanging out with other girls. And that whole comment of him saying like, this is so wild that we're hanging out, like I never do this. The first time we hung out, he had this whole conversation with me, and it felt so genuine.
yeah,
Like, he's a good actor, I'll tell you that. I'll give you that, Zach, you're a good actor. But yeah, so it really was just like a fever dream. It was just all so weird and fast, and just so many different elements. But yeah, looking back, I'm like, man, I guess I should have looked into these things a little bit more. But lesson learned, I guess.
okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, this might. I don't obviously want to put words in anyone's mouth, but like, do you feel? Obviously, it might be obvious, but do you feel like misled or manipulated in any way by
Oh yeah,
Zach?
yeah. I think that's for anyone, no matter who you are, like a female, male, like you shouldn't ever mislead someone to think they're the only person, especially when there's intimacy involved, because that's super unfair. Especially if it's like multiple girls in one day, that just, it feels so nasty. It
Yeah,
feels disgusting, and it's just like, come on, like, get it together, man. Like, it just, yeah, it feels very violating. It does piss me off in that way. Like, emotionally, I don't feel like, oh, I love him. Like, I never felt that way.
mm.
It was fun. I liked him at the time. But more, I'm just like pissed off.
Yeah,
You
and
fooled me.
yeah, and obviously, like, it's all kind of come out, this whole like cheating scandal and all the rest of it with Zach, and obviously, no one is, from what I've seen at least, is pointing the finger at you, being like, you're to blame, obviously, because Zach was the one, orchestrating all of this behind the scenes. But how does that affect you emotionally? Kind of like knowing you were unknowingly a part of this whole thing that was going on.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. And I mean, there is people that, I see in the comments here and there that are, it's probably like Ghost Adventures fans, and they will blame me like, you should have, how could you not know? Like, you definitely knew. And I mean, that doesn't bother me too much, because I genuinely didn't. Like, there was just no way. If people really put themselves in my shoes, like, they would see that. But yeah, overall, it's just not a great feeling. If anything, I feel bad for Holly more than anything, because I can't imagine, because that's a long-term relationship, and just thinking someone like that just
Yeah.
that screws with your mind a lot. And it's just like another story every single day, like multiple people every day. It's like, how much more can there be at this point? and there's just so much more that we're not even coming out about yet. It gets kind of dark.
Yeah,
It's dark stuff.
it is, and there's all sorts of things coming out, obviously, that just makes the whole situation darker and darker and darker every day. But I guess ultimately, now that you're speaking out, it's a fantastic thing that you're doing, because a lot of people would be intimidated in your position to speak out, to be public about, because ultimately you're going up against a 10-ton, juggernaut, essentially. Does that worry you in any way?
It did for a while. I was always, that's why I never spoke on this. Like, I have so many stories that will, maybe come out over time that are just funny, if anything. But I was always scared to speak out. I mean, I know he's very heavy on the silencing people and just like that intimidation factor, but I don't care anymore. Like I know what's right and what's wrong and who's right and who's wrong. I did nothing wrong. I feel like I should be allowed to speak my truth without having consequence. So, I don't care anymore. I'm not scared.
Fair enough. Fair
Um,
enough.
there is things that I still like. I want to speak about that. I do have a little fear about like saying it out on publicly, I guess
Mm.
you would say. Um, but I mean, there's one thing I do want to speak about, and I feel like I need to do it in a way that I don't give out too much details, but it's the part that bothers me the most about all of this, that affected other girls too, as far as I know. But I'm trying to think of the best way to word this without being too graphic or detailed. But during my time with him, there was intimate moments, and there was a time, from my perspective, I saw a phone being held up, and to me, it seemed like I was being recorded. And this is something I always kind of brushed off because I was given an excuse at the time that that's not what was happening. But there is other allegations and stories that align with my experience that make me think that this is a big problem.
Right.
And that's kind of all I'm going to say about that right now.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
we won't obviously push that, because yeah, that's yeah. So obviously, I hope that people can see you speaking out, right? As you know, brave as you are being with it, because like I say, it's no mean feat to kind of come out against someone as big as Zak Bagans. So hopefully other people can see this, and like, obviously, would you like to see more people kind of like, or are you quite happy to be the only person right now, or would you like to see more people come out, or is it just like if they
I
want
mean,
to?
if they want to, I hope that they can. Like, I
Yeah.
hope they have that confidence to be able to do it and feel safe to do so. Because, like I said, a lot of girls still are like, I don't know. They're on the fence, and they do have stories and that they've held in for so long. And that's not a good feeling. So I do hope that more people come out, and I think they will. I do think they will. It seems like there's some people on the fence, and they're just trying to gather their footing and their story to say it in the proper way.
Fair enough. Totally fair. And the last thing I guess I'll ask is, if you don't have to answer this one, obviously, just say no if you don't want to. But if there was one thing you could say to Zak, if you were face to face with him, is there anything that you'd want to say, or would you just rather never interact with him again?
Ooh, yeah, no, I would prefer to never interact with him again or be anywhere in his presence. But I guess the only thing I would say is we want answers.
Oh, I like that.
Answers.
I like that. That was good. That was good. That was like some proper CIS detective shit right there. Right. Well, that's all the questions that I've got, I think. So is there anything else that you want to say? Anything else that's like you wanted to get out there? Or are you kind of happy with what's happened?
I think that's good for now. Like I said, there is just endless amounts of stories, and I think with time, I think more will come out. So I think we can probably speak again soon and, you know,
Okay.
release some more information if we can,
Yeah. Absolutely.
safely.
Absolutely. Now, what do you guys think of this? Of course, please be respectful and civil, as, you know, it's not easy to come out on an interview to talk about someone who is as well known as Zak Bagans. So please show some respect down in the comments below. I will be moderating it quite heavily because, you know, although some people say that that's heavy censorship, ultimately this person has, you know, put herself in the firing line to kind of, you know, expose the truth, you know, or at least her truth. So, you know, I would really appreciate if you guys could be respectful down in the comments and let me know what you think. Jump scare the hell out of that like button if you have enjoyed, and until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.